Picture this. You wake up, walk into your living room with your morning coffee, and there it is. Your beloved Dracaena plant has suddenly dropped a massive pile of leaves all over the floor. It is an absolute shock, right? I mean, it's genuinely a terrifying moment for any plant parent. Dracaenas are incredibly popular for a reason. They've got those gorgeous, elegant long leaves and amazing structural beauty. So when they start shedding, it feels like a literal emergency.
I completely empathize with your frustration here. There's honestly nothing more stressful than watching a healthy houseplant suddenly go downhill. But listen, here is the promise I'm making to you in this explainer today. We are going to treat this exactly like a medical diagnosis. By really digging into the biology and learning how to read the exact symptoms your plant is showing us, we'll find a real, actionable cure to bring your Dracaena back to life.
Okay, so let's quickly run through our game plan. We'll start with meet your Dracaena, move into why are leaves dropping, and then identifying the warning signs. After that, we'll cover prevention tips, reviving your Dracaena, and wrap up with key takeaways and a quick disclaimer. It's a clear roadmap from understanding the plant's biology all the way to a step-by-step emergency rescue.
Section 1. Meet your Dracaena plant, focusing on its origins and biology. You know, to properly care for any living thing, you really have to understand where it comes from first. Mimicking nature is basically the ultimate secret to all houseplant care. And here's a fun fact for you. Even though it looks a whole lot like a palm tree, the Dracaena actually belongs to the Aspergaceae family. Yep, that is the exact same family as the asparagus you eat for dinner.
Let's contrast its natural home with where it's living right now. Out in the tropical and subtropical regions of Africa and Madagascar, the Dracaena evolved to survive. It developed thick, waxy leaves and a really shallow root system specifically designed to handle seasonal droughts and dappled forest light. Now put that survivalist plant into a modern living room. It's suddenly facing constant, heavy watering, sitting in dark, low-light corners, and getting blasted by icy air conditioning drafts. These plants absolutely thrive on what experts call benign neglect, but they struggle massively when we give them the wrong kind of attention.
That brings us perfectly to Section 2, why are leaves dropping? Diagnosing the root causes. Because if we can figure out exactly what's triggering the stress, we can stop the leaf drop in its tracks. Now here's a statistic that might blow your mind. Overwatering accounts for a staggering 80% of Dracaena decline. 80%. Remember how we just talked about them being built for drought? Well, because of that, their roots simply lack oxygen when they're sitting submerged in wet soil. That rapidly leads to root decay, and your plant ends up dropping its leaves out of pure suffocation.
As for the other 20% of environmental stressors, Dracaenas are just exquisitely sensitive to dissolved salts. Using straight tap water that's loaded with fluoride and chlorine will literally disrupt the plant's cellular structure over time. On top of that, they absolutely hate sudden thermal shock. Cold drafts dipping below 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius will cause sudden, dramatic leaf drop. Throw in some really dense potting soil, low light, and maybe some dusty leaves that are blocking photosynthesis, and well, you've got a recipe for a very unhappy plant. The big takeaway right here is to start auditing your home for these hidden stressors today.
Section 3. Identifying the warning signs, or reading the symptoms. Let's get into our symptom spotting phase. We're going to act as the plant doctor to read the exact warning signs your Dracaena is trying to show you.
Let's put the two most common visible symptoms side by side. If you're noticing yellowing on the lower leaves, and especially if that's paired with soft, mushy stems, your diagnosis is almost certainly overwatering and root rot. But on the flip side, what if the leaves have brown tips and crispy edges? People constantly misdiagnose this as underwatering. In reality, it is the classic hallmark of fluoride toxicity from municipal tap water building up right in the leaf margins.
Let's look at a few other really critical symptoms. If you see black, rotting stems right at the base of the plant, that means fungal or bacterial soft rot. I hate to say it, but that is often fatal and non-recoverable. Don't panic yet, though. If your leaves are just looking pale or faded, that's merely a lack of light. Super easily fixable. And if you wake up to a sudden massive leaf drop overnight, go check your nearby windows and air vents. That indicates a severe temperature shock, which again you can fix just by moving the plant to a safer spot.
Moving into Section 4, prevention and maintenance tips, creating that optimal environment. So how exactly do we create the perfect setup to keep your Dracaena thriving and stop these issues before they even start?
Remember, we want to mimic its native habitat. You're aiming for stable daytime temperatures between 65 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit, an average household humidity of around 40 to 60%.
When it comes to soil, you've got to ditch those standard, heavy, moisture-retaining mixes. You need a fast draining blend. Try this recipe: 60% peat-free potting soil, 30% perlite, and 10% orchid bark. It works wonders. Also, Dracaenas actually like being slightly root-bound, so resist the urge to repot constantly. Only do it every 2 to 3 years in the spring, and only increase the pot size by an inch or two.
Now, finding the right light can be tricky, but there's a brilliantly practical way to do it without buying any fancy equipment. It's called the shadow test. Just hold your hand about 12 inches above the foliage. If you see a sharp, really dark shadow, the light is way too intense and it's going to scorch the leaves. If you see absolutely no shadow, it's too dark. What you're looking for is a soft, fuzzy edge shadow. That is the universal indicator for perfect, bright, indirect light, ideally positioned a few feet back from an east or north-facing window.
We also absolutely have to rethink our hydration strategy. Avoid tap water at all costs. Like we learned earlier, that accumulated fluoride and chlorine will severely burn the leaf margins over time. Switch over to stored rainwater, distilled water, or at least water run through an activated carbon pitcher filter. Oh, and a quick pro tip: never ever use ice cubes to water your Dracaena. The freezing cold water shocks the roots and totally stalls the plant's metabolism. So, bringing it all together, here is the golden rule of watering. We call it the 2-inch moisture rule. All you have to do is insert your finger 2 inches deep into the soil. Water deeply, only if it feels completely dry to the touch down there. And never, ever let the pot sit in a saucer of standing water. Seriously, implementing this single habit will completely prevent the #1 killer of this plant.
Okay, but what if your plant is already in deep trouble? Section 5, Reviving Your Dracaena, are emergency interventions. If your plant is actively dying right now, we need an immediate, hands-on rescue plan.
Let's build this into a real-life, 3-step diagnostic framework so you can rescue that failing plant today. Step 1, check the roots. If they are mushy and brown, you've got root rot. Step 2, check your lighting situation using our trusty shadow test. And step 3, immediately switch your water source entirely away from the tap.
Now, if you did find root rot in step 1, it's time for some real-life plant surgery. It sounds scary, but it's a proven method to revive dying roots. Take the Dracaena out of its pot and very gently wash away the old, soggy soil. Grab some sterilized shears and carefully trim away all of the mushy, black, rotting roots until you're left with only firm, healthy tissue. Then, repot the plant into a fresh, dry batch of that fast-draining soil mix we just talked about. Ensure that new pot has excellent drainage holes. If the rot was super severe, you can also apply a biofungicide to help protect whatever healthy roots remain.
During the recovery phase, make sure you always water strictly at the soil level. While Dracaenas are generally tough survivors, true diseases like Fusarium leaf spot absolutely thrive when water sits on the foliage. So keep those leaves dry and make sure there's good airflow in the room. Now for a tough reality check. If you ever smell a foul, rotting odor and see the lower stems turning entirely black and collapsing in on themselves, that is highly likely bacterial soft rot. Sadly, there is no cure for this. The plant just has to be safely discarded so you don't risk infecting your other houseplants.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 6, Takeaways and Final Disclaimer. Let's wrap things up and do a quick review of your new care plan to make sure you have absolutely everything you need to succeed. Here is your final actionable care checklist. 1. Wait until the top 2 inches of soil are completely dry before watering. 2. Place the plant in bright, indirect light, using the shadow test to be sure. 3. Immediately switch to filtered or rainwater. 4. Keep the plant safe from any drafts below 60 degrees. And 5. Take a damp microfiber cloth and wipe the dust off those beautiful leaves every few weeks. It really keeps photosynthesis running strong. I do need to share a quick disclaimer with you all. Most Dracaena issues resolve really well just by making these environmental corrections we've talked about. However, if your plant's decline persists even after you've made these changes, or if you suspect a really severe disease like a viral infection or a totally unmanageable pest infestation, please don't hesitate to consult a certified horticultural expert or your local university extension service for professional, hands-on guidance.
We have covered so much ground today in this explainer, from understanding this resilient plant's African origins all the way to diagnosing the exact difference between overwatering and fluoride toxicity. So, based on everything we've diagnosed together, I want you to think, what is the very first thing you are going to change about your Dracaena's care routine today? Go check that soil, audit that light, and let's get those plants thriving again.